Hi everyone, and welcome to our Rock Harbor Church Prophecy Update. As always, it's our desire to bring the events that are happening in the world from a biblical perspective and also a prophetic perspective. So thanks for joining us today. Before we begin today, we want to make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell, and it will alert you every time we upload a new video. Today, we want to talk about the takedown of America and where is this going. We have seen over the past few days just absolute anarchy erupting all through the United States, all through the major cities and towns of the country. And we've seen this abroad in other places like Europe and different places where the whole world is on fire about what recently happened. As you have seen the last few days, our world is on fire about the death of George Floyd. And there's been protests all over the United States, protests abroad in other countries, and riots happening in the major cities here in the United States, and even the towns, the smaller towns in the United States. We've seen London, we've seen Berlin, and other places around the world also stage their protests to what went on. Well, as you know, this was all sparked over the death of George Floyd. And there was a video that came out. A bystander showed a police officer, Derek Chauvin, pressuring his knee on Floyd's neck for more than about 8 minutes, and it eventually killed him, apparently. And we all looked at it. We all saw it, and it was out of line. It's on the level of police brutality. And so it was dead wrong what the guy did, and it sounds like they're gonna press charges on him and that he's been arrested. And so the wheels of justice are spinning for that. And we would all agree that was horrific, that shouldn't have happened, and we agree. But from a biblical standpoint, it doesn't matter what the skin color of the individual. All crime like that, or all police brutality against whatever melatonin level of color you have in your skin is wrong, okay? But again, what happened out of this is very peculiar. It went beyond what normally should have went on. And there were riots, obviously, that came from this. And there seemed to be two different groups going on in all these riots. There was those who wanted to peacefully make their case, use their First Amendment and make their case. And then there was other people who had hijacked a lot of these protesters, and they turned the whole thing into a riot. They turned the whole thing into looting, defacing things. They even defaced the Lincoln Memorial and even the World War II Veterans Memorial and other national icons like that by spray painting on them. They went into stores and broke into different places and just went crazy. It was absolute anarchy. And so now the National Guard has been called in by Trump, and that's kind of quelled a lot of this anarchy kind of behavior that we were seeing from this. And basically what we saw is acts of domestic terrorism. And this is where I want to go with this. This is where I want us to go beyond what just happened, but to see the bigger picture and understand that if you look deeper, there is a war on America to take her out. And it's been going on for decades. It's been going on internally, externally, and there's been an infiltration, obviously, to take America down. And so when you look at the folks that were involved in these riots and looting and whatnot, many of them were from Antifa groups and Black Lives Matter groups. And they're the ones who were destroying things, attacking people. They even killed a black police officer and throttled store owners, beat them to death and whatnot. And there was people even handing out bricks. And so with all that to say, There was more going on, and it apparently seemed very staged across the United States for this to happen. There's too many coincidences that this was just a grassroots protest or whatever, or a demonstration. This was well calculated, it was well thought out, and there were plans behind it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So, to give you a better feel, if you didn't see any of this, let me show you these videos and put them together and just show you some of the outright rioting and anarchy that came from all of this, that went beyond, peaceful protesters trying to make a point. Watch these videos and we'll come back after that.
Peaceful protesting, trying to stick to the message, and we're gonna back up a little bit. Our producer got hit. All right, our producer got hit by some sort of projectile right there. We're gonna back up here. You okay? Come on, we gotta move here. Let's back up. Come on. We're gonna get back. We're gonna move back. We're gonna get to a safe spot here, Don. As they continue to methodically work there, we gotta move back, fellas. Come on. Let's move. Yeah. That's right. Well, sir. So here we go. We got a little bit of a fire breaking out on the left here as people are being forced back by the police. And you see these police officers and patrol officers are advancing slowly through the intersection as gas is preceding their steps as they are walking vehicles inside as well. At this point, we're trying to stay out of... Come on.
They're taking the governor. They're taking the governor. We're... Okay. Come on. They're taking the governor. They're taking the governor. We're... Okay.
Station actually grew, and the correct way doing tear gas down there.
Yeah, I know.
Thank God. Are you?
As you can see, there was something more going on there. And like I mentioned before, groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which are not peaceful organizations, both groups, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, are communist-driven Marxist revolutionaries embedded in that. And a lot of folks don't understand that. A lot of folks just say, well, Black Lives Matter is about, black people getting a fair shot in America. That's not what Black Lives Matter is about. They are a Marxist revolutionary group, and a lot of people apparently don't know this. So they partner up with Black Lives Matter not knowing that this is a radical group. And obviously this group, along with the Antifa groups, were practicing anarchy. But let's go back further. This takedown of America, this general theme that's going on, because this was another act of trying to take down America, and I'll explain it. But this goal of taking down America is what's been going on for decades. And we see it in the media. We now see it in the entertainment industry with Hollywood and the music artists. We see this obviously in the educational system, down to even to kindergarten on up to high school, and then we see it definitely in our colleges and universities. The professors, the majority of professors are radicals, okay, in the universities and colleges. I would think twice before sending my kid to a secular university or college, because all it is indoctrination. All it is to get them to think like they do. And unfortunately, it's been very, very successful. You and I would see the educational system of America as broken because, as John Loeffler says, the very people running the system are the ones who broke the system. And when you ask them, is the system working? They say absolutely, and it is. It's doing exactly what they want. Indoctrination towards socialism, Marxism, communism, to hate America, to hate our founding fathers, to hate the Constitution, and then the intentional dumbing down. That was all intentional. So our education system plays a part in it. And then our medical industry, as we saw with this COVID-19, has been hijacked by being politicized to the left and making us all freak out about this COVID-19 thing and shutting down our society because of that. Because the medical industry has been hijacked by big farm, leftist propaganda, leftist mindsets and things of that nature, which is all about control. Obviously, our politics in America have been infiltrated by the globalists, the leftists, the communists, the jihadists even, and the Marxists and socialists. All these people, these groups that I named, the globalists, leftists, communists, jihadists, Marxists, socialists, all of them have their players in place in our politics. We are crumbling from the inside. Yes, are there good teachers? Are there good professors? Are there good politicians? Yes. But they're minimal. They're a rarity. There's not enough of them to overcome the system. So the system is being corrupted from inside. America is internally crumbling. And part of all these groups' agenda is to get rid of America's morals, get rid of the Constitution, because a lot of our morals and a lot of our constitutional rights and our legal system comes from the Bible. We are a Judeo-Christian system. Our system is based on that. And so the communists figured out a long time ago, you have to make the American people immoral. They have to be willing to give up their morals. And they have done a very good job at that. Look at church attendance by the younger generations. The millennials barely go to church. The millennials, like 4% of them claim to be born again. I mean, that's a major shift. That we're looking at the largest population coming up into the American system that's going to be able to vote, and they don't have biblical values. They don't think in terms of the Bible. They think in terms of what they were taught in their public schools and the universities, and that's very scary because those are the people who want socialism, communism, and whatnot. Those are the people who believe in critical race theory and all these other socialistic things, and they've bought into it. And unfortunately, many Christians have bought into this stuff because some Christians have not went deep enough in their walk with the Lord to be able to spot this. So they would lend their support and their credibility to a Marxist group like Black Lives Matter and not realize it's a Marxist group. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So now we are seeing decade after decade of indoctrination of the American people coming to fruition. It worked really well. They did exactly what they needed to do. They got in key places and they're taking America down. At least America that we know and love. They're going to try to create a new type of America with a new moral system and one system that will submit to a global government. That's what's going on. To move to an economic system rather than a free market system to a more socialistic system or Marxist or communist system. That's what they're wanting. And to be able to control the buying and selling with a digital currency. This is where all this is going. So at this level, what is the tactics that they're using to get there? What are the tactics they're using to get Americans to hate America? To get the kids to think our country was founded illegitimately. You know, there's all these projects right now from these radical professors and groups trying to prove how bad America was and is, and how bad the free market system is, and the system that has given America its economic prosperity. They also hate the church. They hate Christians and Jews. That's part of the problem. And so they don't have a problem with shutting down the churches and the synagogues. I mean, at the same time, they're opening restaurants and all kinds of stores and whatnot, and people can go back in there, and they're not told they have to limit the amount of people in there. Yet the churches here in California are told we have to limit it to 100 people. Why is it that the churches are being targeted and not the stores, not the liquor stores or the marijuana stores or Home Depot or Lowe's? How come they're not being told to limit the amount of people? How come they haven't been told to limit to 100 people? It's because there's an intentionality behind this. These people in our country that have infiltrated in all these sectors of society hate free speech. They do not like our ability to say what we want to say. They hate it. In fact, these college kids talk to the professors, why do we have to have the First Amendment? Why don't we get rid of it? They hate freedom. They hate any worldview that goes contrary to how they think. They hate the Constitution, they hate the Bible, and they are, in essence, God haters, is what we're seeing. These people are God haters because you can see it in their behavior and what they say and what they think. And they all see America as an obstacle to the New World Order of globalism, to Marxism, communism. And anyway, what they want is to get rid of America's superiority economically, morally. They have to take that down so that we will eventually bow a knee to the global courts and the global government. And we're rapidly getting there. There's nothing that seems to be stopping this. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we can't deny reality. America today is not what it used to be. The mindset of people is radically opposed to the values that America was founded on, especially the younger generations. It's scary. Many people have no problem with the new norms. No problem with digital currencies. No problem with people tracking them. No problems with embracing socialism. No problem not working anymore. People would rather stay home and not work now and get on the government dole and just be lazy. Because I've heard many people, I'd rather just stay home and get paid. I make more at home not working rather than working. Well, that's not the American way. That's a socialistic way. That's a socialistic mindset that breeds laziness. The Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. The Bible, advocates working. But yet Americans now are getting used to being taken care of by the nanny state. That's not America. Let me add some more things to this. Look at the hatred of the many people in our society when Donald Trump stood in front of St. John's Church just recently there in Washington, and that church was burned to the ground by Antifa. He stood there with a Bible in his hands. And by the way, thank the Lord that Trump designated the pro-fascist left-wing anarchist movement, Antifa, as a terrorist organization. God bless him on that. But he needs to do that also with CARE and the Muslim, which is a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. He needs to do that with Black Lives Matter because they're radicals as well. It's not them being against racism. They're a radical group. Look at the people that founded them. It's not just simply a grassroots movement. Because all of them, by the way, are getting paid by George Soros. He funds them. Anyway, back to the story. Anyway, Trump told the governors to get tougher as on these riots. These governors and mayors were just letting people go crazy, let them destroy police stations and loot and vandalize, and kind of with the mindset, well, let's just get it out of their system. They didn't want to stop them. I don't understand what the governors and the mayors were thinking. Why were they just allowing this? This is crazy. That's like letting a little child go nuts. When were they going to enforce the law? They were allowing anarchy. So Trump comes in there and he gets the National Guard and pretty much stops it because the National Guard showed up. Well, how come these mayors and governors didn't do that? Well, a lot of times where these riots were happening are leftist mayors and are leftist governors. That's why. They actually like this stuff going on in their communities. Many of these mayors and governors were saying that they were afraid to offend the protesters. And in fact, in Portland, we saw police officers kneeling at the request of the protesters. What were they thinking? Why would they kneel at the request of the protesters and take a knee? They're to do their job and stand for and hold the ground, not take a knee. But yet, this is what was said. We don't want to offend the protesters, but what's going on is bigger than that. It's not that. It's that they want to introduce chaos because, according to Saul Alinsky tactics, is that out of chaos you can get more control. Never let a good crisis go to waste kind of mentality. And so when these crises pop up and they're going crazy and they're looting and rioting, then you can seize more power. You can tell people, well, we need to get control of this and this is how we're going to do it. So what a lot of them were doing is just allowing it so that eventually they're going to have an excuse to take more rights away. There's an agenda behind letting people go crazy like this. Don't think it's because they don't want to offend them. There's an agenda. So to get a good idea about our culture and where it's at, Trump goes in front of this church and he holds up the Bible and they go nuts. And of course, we expect the leftists, the ungodly, the secularists, the atheists, the agnostic, all these groups to go crazy about that. But you know what else happened? And I'm glad it did, because I think God's trying to show us that we had these tares among the wheat types of Christians, who are not Christians at all, but only in name only. And then you saw the apostate Christians, and then you saw the Laodicean types of Christians, and they too went nuts. That ought to tell you something. That ought to tell you something. And what God, I think, is showing us is really whose side people are on. It's actually a blessing. It's disappointing to see, but it's a blessing. Because at least we know where the lines are. We know who are in the trenches with us and who have sold out. And so I'm glad that happened. But anyway, I like what Rush Limbaugh said about all this when Trump went in front of the church holding the Bible. He said when he did it, it was like he was holding the crucifix in front of Dracula. They simply couldn't take it. And I think that's an awesome way of explaining it. he holds up the Bible and they go crazy. They go back like Dracula, and it's like, no, that tells me everything about you. And even when these fake Christians and apostate Christians and Laodicean Christians went back and did the Dracula move, it was telling. It tells you where our society's at. It tells you that they've decided to join up with radical groups and not even know that these groups are radical. And so, like even this last Tuesday, there was a Blackout Tuesday event. Okay, so people on their Twitter feeds and whatnot just put a blackout on their feeds and whatnot. Do they understand what was behind all of this before they do something like that? We get it. They want to make a statement about maybe racial inequality or something like that. Okay, but to follow the lead of Black Lives Matter, it's like, have you done your homework? Do you understand what kind of group this is? I mean, you're putting yourself and aligning yourself with radical anarchists who want to see the destruction of America. And most people just don't get it. So let me talk a little bit about Black Lives Matter. It casts itself as some spontaneous uprising born of inner city frustration, but is in fact the latest and most dangerous face of a well-funded communist/socialist organization that has been agitating against America for decades. Its agitation, its riots, have provoked police killings and other forms of violence, lawlessness and unrest in minority communities throughout the United States. And if Black Lives Matter, that group, is allowed to continue, that agitation could devolve like we saw in full-blown anarchy and then cause a civil war. Oh, but that's what they want, isn't it? So these Antifa, Black Lives Matter crowds that hijacked all the protesting appears to be spoiling it just for such an outcome. I mean, they come out in riot gear, they're told what to do, they put on masks, and then they go out and deny facts about cases, such as like Michael Brown. Now, in this situation, yes, the cop what he did was wrong, and it is what it is, and the guy died. It was very tragic. Shouldn't have happened. But in the other cases, like with Michael Brown and the Hands Up movement, it was all lies. That's not what happened. But see, they don't care. It just fit the narrative, what they said. And so this situation fit right in, and it was a situation where someone really died at the hands of police brutality. But understand that Antifa and Black Lives Matter, their intent is to overthrow the society and replace it with a hardcore socialistic one using, and here's the tactic, guys, critical race theory. So let me explain a little bit about what critical race theory is. It uses racism, whether real or perceived or just made up, to vilify America, Americans, as a way to get and achieve their ends. It creates what Marxists call an oppressed class and the oppressor. And then, again, this leads into the Marxist revolutionary tactics like justifying violence to achieve social justice. You see where this is all going? Then they'll claim that white privilege to anyone who believes in the American system and biblical morality. The movement's goal is to overthrow our society to replace it with a Marxist one. So let me unpack that just a little bit. When you see the race card always being used in America and saying that America is systemically racist, that our forefathers were systemically racist and the system is systemically racist, that's not true. And they're doing that to get rid of our system. And so basically, they'll call you and I a racist no matter what color your melatonin pigment is, if you support the American Constitution, the free market system, and biblical morality. So it doesn't matter what your skin color. Now they claim, well, if you're white, this is the way you think. It's not about being white. It's about what your values are. And if you hold dear the American system, the Constitution, and biblical morality, you're part of the problem in their minds. And so they'll use critical race theory against you, saying, well, you're just a racist. You're just a bigot. And we need to solve supposedly the injustice of racism in America. So we need to burn down the system. The system's wrong. Now, hey, there's no doubt, understand this, that racism exists. It always has existed. But they make it out to Americans are like the Ku Klux Klan. The minority of white supremacists in America, it doesn't even appear on the radar screen. America has done more for racism as far as trying to cure this problem than many other countries. It was America who stopped slavery. Did they forget that? They don't care. It was America that brought in all the civil rights for all the races and whatnot. Did they forget about that? But no, they're using racism as a tactic to get us to fold in our system and give up the ghost on our free market system and our morals. Because they've even said the Bible's systemically racist and whatnot. And so they're using that. So what happens? So you get a guy who legitimately had police brutality foisted against him. And it worked to their favor because it was a white cop and a black individual who got arrested. So that's perfect for critical race theory. Again, let me change the scenario. If this had been different colors and whatnot, they couldn't have really used it. In fact, what we saw, and I think the CDC put out a report, that more white people had died from police brutality than black people. But again, it doesn't matter, those facts and evidences that white people died more from police brutality than black people. That doesn't matter. So if anything, if we were going to make a case about police brutality, we should say, hey, this oppression of whites needs to stop. I mean, to take their logic, right? I mean, that's stupid, but that's their logic. So, and again, it doesn't matter about facts, okay? It doesn't matter. It's simply a narrative to destroy. And so that's why when you send a kid to public school and you send a kid to the colleges, they're taught critical race theory, that we're all just a bunch of racists in America, and America's racist. And now they got Europeans and people all over the country protesting against America. Stop the racism. Racism is wrong. And I want to say, you have no idea. You're buying into the lie. You don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, this has been going on for some time, and now it's reached a head, and so many people have been dumbed down and bought into the critical race theory of Marxism, they're following suit. Again, how do Marxist revolutionaries start? You have to have an oppressed class, and then you have to have an oppressor. So what they've set up with critical race theory is that the system of America is the oppressor, and the white Americans are the oppressors, and the oppressed class are the blacks. And they have pitted each other, these two groups, against each other, and they're doing very well at doing this. And that's what causes revolutions. And then you implant people like Antifa, and you implant Black Lives Matter to ramp up this, and eventually it gets so bad you move into civil war types of mentalities. This is how it's done. This is what was done in Russia. This is what has been done in every country that has become communistic. That's the same thing you've seen. Now, they've created different tactics, but in our case, in America, it's critical race theory. Racism. That's what they're using. And look at how all of these Hollywood types and media types and politicians, look at what they did in response to all of this. For example, these Hollywood types like Seth Rogen, Ben Schwartz, Janelle Monáe, Jamela Jamil, Patton Oswalt, Cynthia Nixon, and Steve Carell have all made the point that they will match donations to help Antifa and Black Lives Matter thugs get out of jail. They'll pay their bail. They provided money for these rioters who destroyed private property, who burned down police stations, who hurt people, got people killed, destroyed small businesses, hurt individuals, defaced the national monuments, and these Hollywood types want to pay their bail. That's sick. That's crazy. And look at this situation here on this video. This is what they did to individuals who got in their way. This was a store owner in Dallas, and they nearly killed him and beat him to death. Watch this.
Oh my God.
And so these are the types of people that the Hollywood elites want to bail out. And then you have Creepy Joe Biden that comes in and he advertised to pay their bails as well. Oh, I see which side you're on, dude. I get it. I see what you're doing. I see what the Hollywood elites align themselves with. They don't align themselves with truth. They align themselves with a false narrative, because the very system that provides them all the millions of dollars they have is the very system they're attacking. They don't realize that because they don't have any common sense. They're just on a narrative, and it doesn't matter what the facts and what the evidence is. So here's some questions that we need to talk about. In these riots, if this was just simply a bunch of protesters protesting racism or whatnot, why were there pallets of bricks delivered to these locations where the protesters were? Who supplied the pallets of bricks for the riots? Why is it in this video a woman passing out bricks to people? Why?
Don't give no group of black men no brick that don't do nothing, all right? Push the fuck up. Go home. Why would you give that to them? They gonna get in trouble. You all of y'all. Why you give this to them? Huh? Wild disrespectful. I don't that's your friends. I'm talking about this white giving a group of black men a brick to throw. You know them killed? You know that. Just having them killed. Y'all find yourself some.
So as you can see in the video, someone was passing out bricks. This was a common occurrence around cities in America. Why were there many of the rioters not from that particular area? Who bussed them in? Where did they come from? Why were they from other parts of the country? You know, the funny thing is, even St. Paul mayor said that everyone arrested last night in his city was from out of state. Here's the video, and you can see his very words saying this.
But every single person we arrested last night, I'm told, was from out of state. What we are seeing right now is a group of people who are not from here. As I talk to my friends who have been in this movement for a very long time, who wake up in this movement every day, and I ask them what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're hearing, to a person, I hear them say, we don't know these folks. We don't know these folks who are agitating. We don't know these folks who are inciting violence. We don't know these folks who are first in to break a window. And those folks who are agitating and inciting are taking advantage of the pain, of the hurt, of the frustration, of the anger, of the very real and legitimate sadness that so many of our community members feel, to advocate for the destruction of our communities.
Why did so many people from other countries outside of America join in on this? Watch this video. Look at these places. Why did someone find guidelines on the ground that apparently was given to a rioter and how to riot? And obviously this rioter dropped these guidelines, and it's on a sheet here and you can see it on the screen, about how to instigate this. Someone gave it away. Someone was given a full documented way of how they want to riot. It's right there. It was found. This wasn't about George Floyd. They just used what happened to George Floyd and took it to another level. It's just like what they did with the coronavirus. Let's take a virus and ramp it up. Make everyone afraid. Who's financing them? They're obviously financed. Well, we know already that George Soros has been a major player in these riots all the way back in 2007. And a 2007 email from John Podesta released by WikiLeaks, we find in that email a discussion of financing a group for Hillary's campaign and for anti-Trump rallies, such as MoveOn.org, which is a Soros-funded organization, as well as Women Vote and the Sierra Club. We found out that many groups were being paid by Open Societies Foundation $15 an hour for rioting. Following Tuesday's election results, MoveOn called for demonstrations across the country to protest misogyny, racism, Islamophobia, and xenophobia. Soros' Open Society Foundation funds a lot of this Antifa and Black Lives Matter thing. Look at this picture that Candace Owens put on her Twitter with a Black Lives group wanting their money from George Soros because they were protesting and rioting for him in a previous insurrection in the United States, and they want their $15 an hour, which he didn't pay them apparently. So they're protesting George Soros because he didn't pay them. What does that tell us? These groups like Antifa, these groups like Black Lives Matter are being funded by people, globalists like George Soros, and they're being paid to do this. I mean, all the evidence adds up. There's a paper that tells them what to do. They get $15 an hour. There's loads of bricks that are delivered to the site. People are passing out bricks. And then, like the mayor said there, we arrested all these people, and none of them are from this area. How come no one's reporting that? How come no one's talking about that? It's just like this coronavirus, all this mystery surrounding the coronavirus, that no one wants to connect dots. Because, folks, it was for something greater. Never let a good crisis go to waste is the motto. So they took a crisis and they exploded it and said, well, see, it's just another proof of how racist America is. We need to burn down the system. So I think you know the answer to all these questions. An agenda is happening behind the scenes. There are too many coincidences that are occurring all at the same time. The overall agenda is to take down the United States by causing the United States to be looked at as immoral, our system to be immoral, and make the United States surrender its sovereignty to a global government and eventually basically globalism and a global economy. They hate capitalism, they hate the free market system because they're a bunch of communists. Apparently, I think we're getting a clue of what globalism will look like economically. It's a global system of communism, is what it really looks like, because all of them are on board on all this. They have the same economic theories. These politicians that we have in our country would like nothing better than to bow a knee to the UN. They already are. And many other globalist organizations like the World Health Organization or whatever, Agenda 2030 or whatnot, they would love to bow a knee to that. Our politicians have already been doing that. So, in order to take down America, you have to infiltrate in all the key institutions, and they have. Politics, entertainment industry, academics, media, all been infiltrated. Our media is useless. They are useless. You can't trust anything they say. They're lying. They have an alternative narrative. They don't report facts, report some, but not others and whatnot. And before you know it, you have a false narrative being portrayed by the media. These people are useless. What kids are being taught: America is systematically racist, the Constitution is racist, it was founded by white slaveholders that set up a constitution based on biblical morality, and that's all racist and xenophobic and Islamophobic, and it's all homophobic, and so the whole system needs to be taken down. And have you noticed that when you talk to other Americans on the other side of the spectrum, that you can't simply have a conversation with them? There's no debate, there's no dialoguing. It's just their way, and if you propose your view and it's different, they just get mad and angry. They won't even debate. They'll just call you a hater, call you a name, whatever, unfriend you, shut you down, whatever it is. That's what's happening in the colleges and universities. They just shut down opposing viewpoints. That's what's going on here. And so we're looking at a generation that we're dealing with that you can't reason with. It's like their minds have had Romans 1 applied to them. They've been, they've lost it. They've lost common sense. They've lost wisdom. They're become fools according to the Bible. And that's what we're seeing. But at the end of the day, you and I as prophecy students know where this is going. And where this is going is to get America out of the way for a global government. It has to. If prophecy is going to go down the way it is, America is the only country really that stands in the way of it. There might be a few other countries that will join us, but America is the powerhouse they have to take down. And so they're doing it. And why? Because to get to their agenda of a global government. Now, we as remnant believers, conservatives, and even the President of the United States stands in the way of that. That's why they hate Donald Trump so bad. He's getting in the way of their global agenda. They want to destroy our way of life, the Constitution, the free market system, Christianity, Judaism. They want to get rid of it. They want to eradicate that. And it's all being done by propaganda and fear tactics and overblown problems of racism and whatnot. And let me make a sidebar about racism so you can understand it from a biblical perspective. All racism is wrong biblically, all of it, because we all descend from Adam and Eve. The only difference in us is the way we look. Sometimes we have different pigments of melatonin in our skin, and that's it. So from a biblical standpoint, there's no such thing as different races. There's ethnicities, but that has nothing to do with race. We're all part of the human race. So again, understand that and understand this, that the solution to racism is not giving a particular group more stuff and another group less stuff. Not giving a group more rights and taking away other rights from other people. That's not how you fix racism. You fix racism in the heart. It's in the sin nature. The person has to become a new creature in Christ, a new creation in Christ. He has to be born again, and he has to be given that new nature in order to follow the ways of Christ. Honestly, the only way to overcome racism is to become a believer and to be sanctified in that area of your life, and that will eliminate that. But if people are not getting saved, if people are not following Christ, if people are not doing what the Bible tells them to do, which is what our country's founded on, guess what? The sin nature will take them to racism. That's how it comes. So they're trying to attack this problem in all the wrong places. And so at the end of the day, they don't have the right solution for racism. They simply don't. So folks, let me shoot straight with you. If this continues to happen, in 5 years, you will not recognize the United States. We're being taken over. And unfortunately, it's no one's stopping it. Look what the coronavirus did to our country. It literally shut it down for something that was blown out of proportion. Again, that was a good experiment, and now they're experimenting with these riots popping up saying, hey, we got to get control of all this. There's a lot of racism going on here. And like it's never been dealt with in the United States. We're the least racist of all the countries on the planet, for goodness sake. We have done more towards getting rid of racism in our country than other countries around the world. No one can match that. How did we who had the civil rights movement, eliminated slavery, the first ones to eliminate slavery, and all of what was going on here as far as racism was concerned, how have we become the most racist nation on the planet when we did all this stuff? How is it possible? Because they're lying. They're flat out lying. Because they got to take us down on something. And they're doing it on a moral issue. It's always that way. Look at what the Bible says about this global system that's coming that they want to get to. Daniel 2:40. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all others. Notice what Daniel is saying is that this global system that's getting ready to come and be the system in the last days will crush every kingdom. And that means the United States. It will crush any system in its way. It'll crush our Constitution. It'll crush our biblical morality. It'll crush it. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if we believe prophecy and that this is where it's going, we're watching this fourth kingdom reestablish itself into a global government, which eventually the Antichrist rules and reigns from, then of course we have to get out of the way. Why is there no mention of the United States in prophecy? How did the most powerful and wealthiest nation not show up in the biblical text? We're just gone. Because we corrupt inside, internally. We're taken down internally. By these people who want this fourth kingdom to arise. Because it's like iron, it breaks and shatters everything. And that's what's happening to America. We're breaking and shattering, and no one's understanding what's happening. Daniel 7 remarks about this in chapter 7, verse 7 and verse 23. After I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. In verse 23, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth. That's what we're seeing. America will one day be devoured, be crushed by the system that is predicted. It is the Roman system. It is the Roman system that was there in Jesus' day. It's never went away, but its imperial power now is rising. And that's why everyone's flocking to it, and that's why eventually America will be devoured by this system. Whether we're here for that or not, I'm not sure. To watch the destruction of America. Maybe we could be raptured today and we wouldn't see it. But the longer we're here, the more we're going to see the destruction of the country that we live in. And again, I'm not trying to be, negative or anything. I'm just saying this is what the Bible predicts. This is what it says. This is where it's going. And America's decline will happen. And we could be seeing the final stages of America's end, and we could be seeing the first stages of the development of this Roman Empire taking control of the entire world. What are we to do? Well, again, we're not to be afraid. We're to warn. We're to be salt and light. We're to take part in an active role of warning things. We are to go beyond what's happening on the surface of the story. Just like we are to go beyond seeing just simply the death of George Floyd. I mean, as tragic as that is, you have to go beyond what's behind these riots. You have to go beyond and see what the agendas are behind it all. And you're going to see a lot of tragic things, but these tragic things will be used to get to something else. Coronavirus, to get to something else. The death of George Floyd, to get to something else. So you and I have to be good Bible students. Take a step back and look at the bigger picture. See, it says that in the end times, the wise will understand these things. You have to be wise. You have to understand what's the big picture. And prophecy tells you what's happening. Prophecy connects dots for you. So if you know prophecy better, the better you are at discerning what's happening around you, the better prepared you are, and the better evangelist you could be, the better discipler you can be when you know these things. That's our job, and that's what we'll do until the Lord calls us home. A couple of announcements before we leave. If you've enjoyed our prophecy updates and you like our ministry and the Lord puts it on your heart to help us, you may do so by giving online to our website. Just go to rockharborchurch.net, go to the giving tab, you can give right online. Or you can mail in a check to Rock Harbor Church, P.O. Box 10868, Bakersfield, California, 93389. And again, one more thing. If YouTube ever removes us for our content, click on the link below. We'll show it right here on the screen, and you can go and fill out a form, and you can get in a group text alert that will send you a text if we ever get shut down from YouTube and we have to find another platform. We won't use your phone number to text you constantly. We will only text you if we get shut down and we move to a different location. And so if you can do so, just click on that tab. You can fill out a form. It puts you in this group, and we got hundreds of people in this group that we can alert that if we ever get shut down, this is where we're going to be. We're already working on different platforms, and so just keep that in mind, and that could help you out in finding us if we're ever shut down. So that brings us to our conclusion today. Thanks for watching this as always. And remember, when you see all these things happen, look up, lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. God bless you. See you next time.